Howdy Beans, and welcome back to another exciting episode of the Howdy Beans podcast. I'm your host, the eternal Luke the Elder Bean. Hope you're doing well, hope you're all good. As per usual, today we're going to be traveling back in time all the way back to 1963, to the age of the Beatles, the free love and peace movement, the hippies. Absolute wonderful time in British TV and music, and the origins of one of my favourite TV shows of all time, Doctor Who. A time of Verity Lambert, the time of Waris Hussein, the time of William Hartnell, the age of the Daleks, the age of sci-fi, the age of the BBC when it was just coming up and it was just starting to kind of get its footing on TV. Doctor Who. So today we're going to be looking at an adventure in space and time from 2013. I am absolutely excited for this one. I really can't wait, especially how I've put a lot of research into it. But before we get into all of that and more, I want to do housekeeping because I like to keep my house, my TARDIS, my Type 40 immaculate and clean as possible, especially if I've got the doctor coming around and I need some companions to keep things clean. So in order to help me do that, make sure that you follow me on Twitter. Also make sure that if you listen to this on YouTube, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. If you listen to this on Spotify, don't forget to give me a follow and rate the podcast 5 stars. You can also find the Howdy Beans podcast on TikTok and Instagram now, so make sure that you follow me on there. So before I get into it, I want to talk about my plans with Doctor Who going forward. Now, I promised that this year I was going to go into Doctor Who again, because after last year, how I spent most of the year looking into Torchwood, and I had an absolutely fabulous time with Torchwood. The season 1 of the show was monumental. The books were incredible as well. I've even since then, I now have a Weevil figure that is on my shelf that I'm looking at right now. And I have a figure of Gwen. Just need to get Jack now, and I've got my nice little set, maybe another Weevil or two, because my one is on his own. So it had an effect on me, and I loved it. It was a brilliant time. But I did spend the whole year talking about Torchwood, and I really missed talking about Doctor Who. So with this year, I want to get back into Doctor Who. And this is kind of the beginning of it. This is what you could say, sort of lack of better words, ironically, the genesis, the beginning of starting back up again into Doctor Who. I've got 2 plans going here, 2 directions, and both are going in the same direction, but they're veering off in different ways. So firstly, I want to look back into the sort of revival era of Doctor Who. So where I left off was the end of series 2 with David Tennant and Rose left, and so I left it open so that we can go into the 10th Doctor and Martha. I'm hoping to get into that sometime soon. But also, obviously I was reading the books, so the idea is, as before, I'm going to go into series 3, watch the show, read the books at the same time. There's actually a lot of 10th Doctor and Martha books. I think there's a lot more of them than there is of Tennant and Rose, I think. I've already got majority of them. As of most of last year, going to conventions and going to like charity shops and car boots, I found a lot of them, and going on eBay, I managed to find a huge stack of ones I did have on eBay. So I've collected majority of them. So I'm ready to go with those books soon. Also, what I want to do, because I didn't get a chance to do it when I started reviewing the Doctor Who novels with Tennant and Rose, I want to go back and I want to reread the ninth Doctor and Rose books. There's not many of them. They are brilliant, apart from one. So I want to go back and look into them. So there is a lot of Doctor Who stuff to come. But the other sort of branching sort of path that's also important is the fact of I want to start looking into the classic era of Doctor Who. And this is why this episode is so important, and why this episode is the genesis, is the beginning of that. Because it's not only starting back up my sort of getting back into Doctor Who on the podcast and talking about it, but it also begins my classic era. Because this is kind of the behind the scenes of how Doctor Who began, of how it started, and how we got sort of William Hartnell as the first Doctor, and then sort of history was made from there. And again, I've never seen this before, and I've had so many Doctor Who fans have told me over the years that it's absolutely brilliant. So I'm finally cracking into it and giving it a go. But also, I really want to look into the first Doctor, and I want to look into the classic Doctors. My idea of the classic mostly comes from the fourth Doctor. I've only seen a few episodes here and there of the other Doctors. I hardly ever seen any of the William Hartnell, or sort of Patrick Troughton, sort of eras of Doctor Who. So I want to look into them. I want to look into the other Doctors as well. And nobody can say that Luke half-asses things, because I have done my research into this era of Doctor Who, right? If anybody's following me on TikTok, if you're not, please do, because I do a lot of book reviews and small sort of movie reviews, a lot of side quests there. But I did a review some weeks ago on a book by Paul Hines, basically called Pull to Open. And it's like the inside story of how the BBC created and launched Doctor Who from like 1962 to 1963. It's a brilliant book. I highly recommend checking it out, and highly recommend checking out my review of it. I won't give you the full details because that's not what we're here for. But long and short of it, it is a tome. It is a textbook. It is history come to life, of the sort of building blocks and steps to all the players who had a hand in coming together to build Doctor Who, to how Verity Lambert got involved, how everybody else came to involve, how William Hartnell came to be chosen, then the idea of the Doctor, who the Doctor should be, what the Doctor should be, what is this, like, we want him to have a spaceship, but what is this spaceship? What is this thing? Oh, it's the TARDIS. Okay, what is the TARDIS? What does the TARDIS stand for? Who's going to be Susan? And so on and so forth. You get what I mean, right? And it's absolutely brilliant book, and I recommend this for anybody who's a hardcore Doctor Who fan, and specifically anybody who loves production design, who loves the behind the scenes of how TV shows and movies, like I do, are made. So I highly recommend it. So I did my research. I read all like 400 or so pages of this book, and absolutely loved and devoured it. I also went out and I have bought, in my hands, I hold a box set of Doctor Who The Beginning, which has Unearthly Child, The Daleks, and The Edge of Destruction. The 3 first episodes of William Hartnell's series. I've also gone out and bought the animated episodes that came out a couple of years ago. So I've got the animated episode of Galaxy 6. I've got the animated episode of The Savages. I've also got the animated episode of The Celestial Toymaker, which I will review them separately, individually. And you're probably thinking, hold on, Luke, how can you talk about William Hartnell when a lot of his episodes are missing? Ha ha ha, I've already got you covered there. So I even went a bit further and I bought the... so there are audio versions. So the audio still exists of the missing episodes like Marco Polo and episodes like that. The audio still exists. So that audio has been sort of high definition, so we say, has been refined. And you can actually buy the audiobooks of those episodes, so you can listen to the audio. And that's what I've done. Well, technically I bought a box set collection of like the missing episodes, so like Marco Polo and stuff like that. So that's how I'm going to do it. So I'm going to watch the episodes that I can watch, and the episodes that are missing, I'm going to listen to the audio track. And those that are missing but have been restored via animation, I'm going to do it like that. And my idea is, and I doubt I'm going to do it all in 1 year because there's a lot and I've got all loads of topics to talk about. But my plan is that once I've done that, and like I said, I'm going to review Galaxy 4, The Savages, and The Celestial Toymakers separately and sort of review them as stories and review the animation and so on and so forth. The idea plan is once I've done all of sort of William Hartnell, the first Doctor's run. And I'm not just talking about season 1 like I do for sort of the revival series. I mean like all of William Hartnell, all of his episodes, all of his seasons. Then I'm going to do like a really big roundhouse sort of review, talking about my thoughts and feelings on sort of Hartnell as a Doctor, my experiences, love, hate, that sort of thing. And that's sort of my plan. So again, I don't know if I'm going to do it all this year. There's potential actually it's going to bleed over to next year, and then it's Patrick Troughton and the second Doctor, and I'm really excited for that. And again, I'm going to do the same thing for him. And I've got other things I want to do. And I do kind of want to get William Hartnell's autobiography, and I want to sort of learn a bit more about him as a person and as an actor and stuff like that. So nobody can say that I half-ass things, especially when it's my special interest. When it's my special interest, like Doctor Who, I will go be above and beyond. Not just for me because I'm interested, but because I generally feel and I generally believe that you guys, the audience, are generally interested and fascinated in too. You want me to do this research. You want me to look into it, because there's no point half-arsing it and going, oh yeah, you had William Hartnell and this happened and this happened and I like this and I like that and that's it. Like anybody could do that. I feel like the reason why people listen to me is because I put the work in, I put the research in, I put the time and I put the passion into it. And as you can tell, I've got passion. I've been talking for 10 minutes now and I even talked about what I'm talking about. I've just gone off and talking about Doctor Who. So that's my plan. Anyway, so that's the idea I've got. I want to look into the first Doctor, and I've got more Doctor Who things I've got planned. So like I said, this is the beginning. This is the genesis of all that starting. So buckle up, strap in, get ready, because I'm going to dive straight into now an adventure in time and space from 2013. So let's get into it, shall we? So let's start with the synopsis. It goes as follows. So where is it? In 1963, Sidney Newman becomes the BBC's new head of drama. To plug a gap between the broadcasts of Grandstand and Jukebox Jewelry, he devises a new science fiction series to be titled Doctor Who, which will cater to children and sports fans alike, and feature a central character who is an old man and a doctor. Newman recruits a former production assistant, Verity Lambert, to head the programme as its producer. Despite the difficulties she faces from others in her new role, Lambert and Waris Hussein, the programme's director, recruit William Hartnell, typecast for his army roles, to portray the Doctor, despite his trepidation over how it will aid his acting career. And that is a synopsis. I find it really, really fascinating, because it wasn't just the fact of a way of devising a new science fiction series to be called Doctor Who, but also at the time, ITV was, again, I've learned this from the book, ITV was just coming around. And ITV had their own science fiction program and was actually doing really, really well. And the BBC kind of wanted to not copy, not kind of fly the coattails sort of thing, but they wanted to have their own science fiction show. They wanted to do something that would be interesting to not only children, but also to adults. And you've got to remember, this is the time when there's only about 3-4 channels on TV. So you didn't have a lot to choose from. So if a lot of people are going from the BBC to ITV, the BBC wanted a way to kind of bring those people back of like, oh, we have a science fiction show as well. And that is sort of the sort of genesis of where Doctor Who came from, really, which, again, I find absolutely fascinating. As for the cast, so you have David Bradley as William Hartnell, Ross Gurney Randall as Reg, Roger May as Len, Sam Horse as Douglas Camfield, Charlie Kemp as Arthur, Brian Cox as Sidney Newman, William Russell as Harry, the security guard, Jeff Roll as Mervyn Pinfield, Andrew Woodall as Rex Tucker, Jessica Rain as Verity Lambert, Gemma Powell as Jacqueline Hill, Leslie Mann as Heather Hartnell, Carla Jenkins as Judith Carney, Sasha Dewan, as Waris Hussein, Toby Haddock as Cyril, Sarah Winter as Delilah Derbyshire, Jamie Glover as William Russell, and Claudia Grant as Carol Ann Ford. I also want to mention quite here, if you are a Doctor Who fan, you might have noticed Sasha Dewan. This was his sort of first Doctor Who role before he went on to play the Master, which I think is absolutely brilliant. But also you've got William Russell in this as well. William Russell was in, the original Doctor Who. He played, was it Harry Sullivan he played? Again, I'm really kicking myself now. I'm going to have to check that now, because I'm really going to kick myself in the bottom for not knowing that one. I'm sure he plays Harry Sullivan in that as well. And I think Carol Ann Ford is actually in this, but I think she is in the background somewhere in this. Either way, I love the fact of they've not only brought in sort of new people to play certain people, but they've also brought remaining cast members, bring them in to play characters as well, which I absolutely love and adore that. As for the production, so let me find it here. Right, so the development. For the 13th anniversary of Doctor Who in 1993, filmmaker Kevin Davies pitched an idea called The Legend Begins to the BBC. The Legend Begins would have mixed documentary interviews with those responsible for the creation of Doctor Who, with a dramatised strand showing the program's beginnings. Eventually, the dramatisation idea was abandoned in favour of a standard documentary format looking at the entire history of Doctor Who, which was broadcast on the BBC One as Doctor Who: The 30 Years in the TARDIS in November 1993. 10 years later, for the 40th anniversary, writer and executive producer Mark Gatiss pitched the idea for the film to BBC Four, unaware of Davis's previous attempts. However, the proposal was rejected, and Gatiss was told that there was no available slot or budget. As for writing, so in order to make the film comprehensible among a general audience, not all personnel involved in the creation of Doctor Who are represented. For example, the role of original story editor David Whittaker is merged with that of associate producer Mervyn Pinfield. Co-creator Donald Wilson and writer C.E. Webber are also excluded. Part of the production involved the creation of scenes from the classic series, including missing episodes such as Marco Polo. Gatiss also has had ambitions to create the death of Sarah Kingdom from the Daleks' master plan, using original actress Jean Marsh to play the increasingly aging Sarah, and to use Super 8 footage of a recreation of the Radio Times publicity photo shoot for the Three Doctors, with himself as John Pertwee, but the budget did not accommodate these ambitions. As for filming, so principal photography for the film began in February 2013. Filming primarily took place at Wimbledon Studios in London and the BBC Television Centre. It was the final drama to be recorded at the latter, which closed 1 month after filming concluded. Location filming took place on the 17th of February 2013 on Westminster Bridge in London. This involved replicas of 1960s Dalek props crossing the bridge in a recreation of a famous scene from the Dalek invasion of Earth, 1964. The interior scenes replicating early Doctor Who production at Lime Grove Studios was also filmed, with replicas of early television equipment being used. And in 2023, alterations. So on the 23rd of November 2023, the programme was rebroadcast on BBC Four to coincide with Doctor Who's 60th anniversary, and features some alterations, including the 11th Doctor actor Matt Smith's cameo being replaced by incoming 15th Doctor Ncuti Gatwa. Scenes featuring dialogue originally used in An Earthly Child were removed, which many assured was due to the family of writer Anthony Colburn withholding licensing rights from the BBC. And there's a potentiality that the version that I'm going to be watching will be the newer version, because I'll be watching it on BBC iPlayer. Yeah, like I said, I've just had a look as well. William Russell plays Harry. Karen Lanford, it plays Joyce. And who else? I'm trying to find who else. It's really that's really gonna bother me, to be honest. Because talk amongst yourselves. No, he plays Ian. He doesn't play Harry. He plays Ian Chesterton. I knew it was Ian or Harry or something like that. He did 77 episodes, by the way. I just had a quick look on IMDb. Anyway, I'm glad I got it out of the way. The point is, there is a lot to go into this movie, and I can't wait to get into it. I am really, really excited. Like I said, I absolutely love this movie. I love the idea and concept of it, and not even that, David Bradley not only did that good of a job as William Hartnell, but he also went on to play the Doctor again in the 13th Doctor's story. Is it The Magician? Oh God, I'm really gonna bother me, because again, being a big Doctor Who fan, I should really know that. But that was it. 3 episodes, Twice Upon a Time, The Power of the Doctor. And he had a cameo in The Doctor's Falls, which was who replaced William Hartnell. So I knew he was. Anyway, point is, he's brilliant, and I can't wait to see him, because obviously David Bradley's is a fantastic actress. As you can tell, I'm really excited and very giddy. And I've Luke, shut up now, get on with the review. So I'm going to go off now, and I'm going to watch this movie, or made for sort of TV movie. And then when I come back, again, we're going to give first impressions, talk about what I thought, talk about sort of David Bradley, how good he is as the first Doctor. You know, he might be, he might not be. I don't know. I just have a lot of faith after seeing him in Elsewhere, how good he was. I'm excited to see how he plays both William Hartnell and the first Doctor as well. So I look forward to that. And I just yeah, I just can't wait to see the sort of genesis of Doctor Who. So join me as I talk about that in a minute. And yeah, I will see you all in the Flashes of Flash. And welcome back, everyone. Hope you all watched along with me. Boy, where to start with this one? Um, I guess the best place to start would be with honesty, and to say that I cried, and not at just one part, and not at just at the end, but at many parts. I cried for majority of this. It was all happy tears, but this just moved me, and it had me thinking, to be honest, um, that even though for a long time Doctor Who has been a bit difficult, it's not been the best, and there's been many people saying it's going to die, and many people have been very negative about it. Um, this is a movie that I feel like everybody should watch, no matter how you feel Doctor Who's treated you over the last few years, or if you were just a Doctor Who fan during the revival, and then you start watching after David Tennant left, or if you grew up with the classic era of Doctor Who, you never decided to go with the revival. No matter how you feel Doctor Who has been or treated or whatever over the years, I feel like if you're a Doctor Who fan, you should watch this. If you haven't already, which I imagine most of you have, and I'm probably one of the many few who haven't, since obviously now. But if you haven't seen it, watch it, because this is a love letter to Doctor Who. This is a love letter to something that means the world to us all. And I still feel quite emotional in myself already. I still feel really moved. I still feel very sort of calm, sort of in a state of serenity. I just feel so full of emotion because I'm watching and I'm talking about something that I love, something that means a lot to me. And not just me, it means a lot to everybody else. And that's one thing that this movie really shows. Apart from like showing you the behind the scenes of how Doctor Who was made and the progression of it, and then showing you sort of what William Hartnell went through, and he taking on the role, and then all the other cast, you know, while also showing you all that, it also shows you how much it means to the fans, to the people, to you, the watcher, to myself. Because there are many moments, many memories I have personally. Like I remember watching the Doctor Who on the revival when it first came on, and seeing the Daleks for the first time. And even though I've said it many times, even though I am more of a fan of the Cybermen over the Daleks, no one can disagree of how scary the Daleks are. Nobody can disagree of how iconic the Daleks are. Not just like the TARDIS and Doctor Who, but Daleks are so iconic that when you look at them, you're like, yeah, that is iconic. That's scary. That's terrifying, but also really cool, really wicked. When you look at their design, I remember many times when I was younger, I would get my mum's washing basket. It used to be a grey washing basket, and I used to stick it on my head, pretend that that was my Dalek head, and I would walk around going, "Exterminate, exterminate! You will be exterminated." Pretending to be a Dalek. We've all done it. We've all got a different story. We all pretended to be a Dalek. And you get to that moment is actually reflected in this show as well. Where William Hartnell's granddaughter is on the show and she is running around in like a Dalek costume. And again, that just gave me memories of, oh my God, I forgot that. Like, yeah, I did that. And I'm sure many of us did as well. But also, like, there's a moment in this where William Hartnell and his wife are in the park and they're talking. She's reading fan mail to him. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, this little boy sort of appears just behind him while they're sitting on a bench. And he just go, Mr. Hartnell or William, he goes, Doctor Who, please. And I was just in tears. I was just crying because, again, I'm going to get emotional again. I'm so sad. But calm down, Luke. You've got to be serious. Right. Without missing the beat, obviously David Bradley who plays him, but straight away, without missing a beat, go straight from Hartnell to the doctor, and you just see the kid's face light up. Oh, so I'm getting emotional, and it's just lovely. And I was in tears, crying because like I would have been the same if I had met if I met David Tennant or Christopher Eccleston out and about. I wouldn't have gone David or Christopher. I would have gone Doctor, and it was just lovely to see. And he goes straight into character, and he signs the autograph, and the boy asks him about when the Daleks are going to return or going to invade, and he's in character, and all of a sudden he turns around and he sees loads and loads of kids, just like looking at him like he's a doctor. And instead of going, "Oh, here we go," that sort of like, "Oh God, I can't believe it." The next scene is when he's leading these kids on a march through this park, pretending to be the doctor, and they're his companions. And he's like, "Oh, look, there!" He's like, "What is it, doctor? What is it, doctor? There's a Daleks over there. Run, kids, run!" And they all run. And then he's going, "Dilly, dilly," exterminate. And it's absolutely just lovely, and it really pulled at my heartstrings because this is wonderful. And pardon me, it just goes to show how much this show put it out. Come on, Luke, get it together. How much this show means to me, means to fans, means to everybody, means to the British public. You know what I mean? And again, I have like the same sort of stories. Like I've never, like up until recently, had never met a doctor in person. And then last year, I've never actually been able to tell this story on the podcast because I haven't actually talked about Doctor Who since it happening. But last year, on 2 occasions, I saw Paul McGann. The first one was at a convention in March. I was on my own. First time ever going to a Comic-Con on my own. It was a brilliant experience, by the way. I highly recommend it. If you've never been to a convention on your own, do it. It's brilliant. It's such a freeing and wonderful experience. Anyway, I went. He had a panel. I went to his panel. I wasn't brave enough to get up and ask him a question, but just being there in his presence, because again, I'm a big fan of Paul McGann. I feel like he's a brilliant doctor, and I feel like he doesn't get enough recognition. And he's one of my favourite Big Finish doctors. So I've listened to majority of his Big Finish run, and so I'm a big fan of his, and I absolutely just love him as a doctor and as an actor and as a person. Anyway, I wasn't brave enough to go see him. And then I went to another convention last year in November. It was the last convention that I went to. And I was with my brother and my niece. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to go see Paul McGann. I'm going to do it. I'm going to be brave and I'm going to go see him. So I went to the booth. I got my ticket to go see him. And I'm dressed up not as a doctor. I'm dressed up as a Jedi. I had my lightsaber and everything. And I went up. And I there wasn't a big line. I waited in line. I went up to see him. He shook my hand and he says, "Lovely to meet you." I said, "Well, it's lovely to meet you, Paul." I kept it cool. Like internally, I was freaking out. Like I was literally internally, I was like, "Oh my God," freaking out. But in my face, like the autism kicked in. Masking, shook his hand, like, "It's nice to meet you, Paul." And I'm looking at the photos, and obviously I pick one. And I think it's the photo of him. I'm actually looking at the photo now. It's him when he's the Night of the Doctor. Like it's his little short film where he goes from being sort of his doctor to the War Doctor. It's that sort of promotional image. So I picked that one because I thought that I love that one. And as he's signing it, I said to him, "Like, look, I had an opportunity to meet you at the beginning of the year, but I was too scared to meet you. But I finally felt brave enough to come and see you." He went and he looked at me with a smile on his face. I don't know why I'm getting emotional for, because I've told this story before, and I don't normally get emotional. I think it's just because I feel so emotional after watching this film. But he looked at me and he smiled and he laughed, and he goes, "There's no need to be nervous. I'm not a monster, am I?" Then he looks to his handler, the woman next to him. She goes, "We're not monsters, are we?" And then we said no, and again, he was really lovely, and we had a chat. And the woman that his handler, while he was signing that, even said like, "Oh, you're doing really, really well." Because like we had a woman who came once and she met Paul and like straight away she almost fainted and she had to quickly run over and grab her, So we had a laugh and said, "Well, I'm doing quite well. I'm doing better than that." And I told him like how much of a wonderful doctor he is and how good he is on Big Finish, and it was absolutely lovely. And he shook my hand and he said, "Luke, next time, don't be a stranger, come see me again. And I was like, yeah, definitely, I will. And I will. Like, I'm planning on going, as of recording this, I'm planning on going to another convention. And if he's there, I'm going to go see him because I've now got his signature. I want to go get a photo with him. So I'm going to get a photo next time I see him. And the reason I bring up that story, and the reason why I mention it, and the reason why I'm talking about this before I've even gotten to talking about the film, is because, sorry, still quite emotional. The reason I bring it up is the fact of what this film really shows. And like I said, it's not just the production, but also how much it means to people and how much it means to fans and how much it meant to sort of William Hartnell, because he was very apprehensive at first. He goes, "Oh, I'm not sure. I don't know. Am I the right man for the job?" And you see it in this. And then when he has that moment where that kid comes up to him and then calls him Doctor Who, and then when his niece, or his granddaughter, sorry, is asking him loads of questions about the Doctor, and he's like, "Oh, my granddad's the Doctor," and all this and that. And then he's got all these other people that you can see inside him. He's realizing that I'm not doing this for me. I'm doing it for them, for the kids, for the fans. And that's really, really wonderful. And I'm like, we all have like a doctor story. Like, we've all met different doctors and we all have like different sort of stories. But it just goes to show that these actors, these people, have such a profound effect on us that you don't realize it, that you grow in a connection to somebody, or that it means so much to you until it's over. And yeah, I was just emotional all the way through this. Like I said, I still am. You can tell. Like, I'm already getting emotional, and I need to sort of bring myself up because I need to do this review. And if I'm too emotional, I can't do it. But yeah, it's just lovely, and it reminded me of other people as well. Like, for example, like I was listening to Ace Odyssey today, which is Sophie Aldridge's podcast, and she was talking to a wonderful content creator called Katie Haynes, who you might know. She plays the 13th Doctor, or the cosplayer of the 13th Doctor, and she's really well known online of being a 13th Doctor. And she does a brilliant job. I love her. Like, I've been following her since like the beginning, since she started doing it over like lockdown and COVID, stuff like that. But she was actually talking about why she got into it herself, where she didn't really watch Doctor Who. Her partner got her into it. And then she remembers seeing a video that Jodie Whittaker did from her wardrobe during lockdown, basically saying to kids and that, like, don't worry, it's okay. Everything will be right. The Doctor's here, sort of thing. And that inspired her to then decide of like, I want to do this. I want to do something like this. And so she got the costume on, and then she started doing little videos here and there for people, kind of like kind words, help people. And then it just took off. And next thing you know, she's the version of the 13th Doctor, and she does a brilliant job. And every time she comes up, she makes me smile, And there's many people out there like that. There's many Doctor Who fans like that. But yeah, it was just the impression. Like I said, first impressions. The impression it's really affected on me, apart from just pure tears and emotion, is the fact of that Doctor Who means the world to everybody. It's not just a British thing. It is it is a ray of hope for everybody. It is something that means something different to everybody. But everybody has their favorite Doctor. Everybody has their favorite story or episode or whatever. But no matter who you are, what Doctor Who fan you are, we can all agree that it means something to you. And that's such a wonderful thing. And that's something that I didn't get when I read Pull to Open, because it was the production. And it doesn't really shine on the effect it has. It's too much, really. But then when actually seeing it and seeing the effect it had on the British public, seeing the effect it had on William Hartnell, seeing the effect it had on Verity Lambert or Wallace Hussein, or sort of like Sidney Newman and the BBC in general, it was just like, oh my God, it really just took off. Like, where all other shows were lost and forgotten, this show from the 60s just carried on. They just kept doing it, and yeah, it's just a wonderful experience. So yeah, first impressions, I'm in awe. I'm just sort of left in sort of complete emotion, and it's wonderful. It really, really is. As for sort of the story, sort of moving on, otherwise I'll just get more emotional. This, like I said, this tells the story of sort of the genesis, the beginnings of Doctor Who, kind of like, but in a quicker way. So when I read Pull to Open, as I mentioned in that book, it kind of it's a very long book. It's a very long sort of textbook, really. It is. It starts from the beginning. It shows you all the different players, all the different people that are involved, who made up the name, the costumes, the idea of the TARDIS, X, Y, and Z. Whereas this, it's very streamlined. It's like Sidney Newman had an idea. He used to work for ITV. He goes, I wanna do a science fiction show for the BBC. I don't want bug-eyed monsters and I don't want robots. That's very tacky and cheap, and everybody else has done that. I want something different. And then it just goes from there. Then he brings in Verity Lambert. Then he brings in Waris Hussein, and that they sort of take the helm. And she becomes like lead producer, and Waris Hussein like directs the first ever episode, An Unearthly Child of Doctor Who, and together, they make Doctor Who what it is, and it's wonderful. And I hate I like I'm not wanting to do anything like this normally, because I tend to stay out of politics when it comes to the podcast. But for everybody out there who says that Doctor Who is now woke, I want you to stop saying that. Mostly because Doctor Who has always been woke, and Doctor Who has always been gay. I don't care what anybody says, because the woman that produced it was a woman. Verity Lambert was one of the first, was the producer on Doctor Who, and also Warwick Huss. He wasn't only a gay man, but he was a man of color. So saying that Doctor Who is now woke and never has been woke, it always has been woke, and just put the end of that. I just wanted to put that in there. But the point is I'm trying to make is the fact of these two come together, just made the show what it is. They stood up for certain things when, like Sidney Newman, or when the heads of the BBC said that, don't like this, don't like that, this is terrible, change that. No, they stood up for it. They were like, no, this is what we're doing. This is the script. We're keeping the Daleks. They want to get rid of the Daleks. They thought, it's terrible. After they did the Daleks, that's it, get rid of it. But no, Verity Lambert was like, no, we're doing the Daleks. Trust me, they're not bug-eyed aliens. They are a race of beings that had to go into machines because they destroyed their planet, and now they hate everything else that isn't a Dalek. It's very cool, it's different, and it worked. And as soon as they shot it, and as soon as it went out and everybody loved it, and she's on the bus and these kids just start going exterminate, straight away she realizes we're onto something. And that's a wonderful thing. It really, really is. And as you go through the story, like, you see them two as the show goes on, and as they, like, Waris Huss, he leaves and he goes off and he makes movies and other sort of TV shows and things like that, and he has a really successful career. And Verity Lambert, she goes on and then she eventually leaves, and then somebody else comes and takes its place, and it's just, that itself is wonderful to see. And then David Bradley as the William Hartnell. Now, as I've expressed before, I hate to say that I don't have a lot of experience with the First Doctor, with a lot of the classic era, to be honest. And I am going to change that this year. I really am. I'm going to watch, the first season of Doctor Who with William Hartnell, or as much as I can, because again, a lot of it is lost. But as much as I can, I'm going to devour as much as possible. But from what I have seen of William Hartnell, David Bradley is spot on. He is William Hartnell. He is the First Doctor. And he's not only that, but you can understand why they brought him back for that Doctor Who special with Peter Capaldi. Because he is spot on with the First Doctor. And even so much so that I think he's now doing Big Finish as the First Doctor, which is crazy, but also awesome at the same time. And the way he plays it, where he comes on and at the beginning of it, he's like, as William Hartnell was like, I'm not sure, I'm doing a lot of sort of army roles and I don't want to do any long form sort of TV, and I'm a proper actor. And it even mentions it in Pull to Open, some of the discussions that like Verity Lambert and like Sidney Newman and that had with William Hartnell, or Bill, as his friends called him. And he wasn't too sure. He's like, I don't know. Like, I'm the right person. You sure you don't want to get somebody else? Like, I'm a proper actor, sort of thing. And then when he starts gets into the role, the way he goes from playing the First Doctor, where David Bradley just changes into the First Doctor, then to William Hartnell, and vice versa. It's a wonderful thing, and as I mentioned, you see the evolution of him as he goes on through the years, and how he's playing the Doctor, how he's getting to know the Doctor, and he cares about it. Like one of the things he said, he's like, oh, what was it now? Where he's like, I've got to, I've before, because they didn't at this time when they're doing rehearsals on like the first episode, they hadn't built the TARDIS set at this point, so they basically, like Verity Lambert is like trying to get this set to be made, but the sort of production office that does all of that is taking the mick. You know, they're not rushing themselves at all, and William Russell was like, "When's this TARDIS? When's this ship set going to be made? Like, I need to get my hands on it." And they're like, "Why?" And he's like, "Well, because like I need to know what all the buttons do." And they look at him a bit weird. And he goes, "Oh no, I need to know the buttons." So like, I can't one week, mess around with one sort of button or lever and open the doors, and the next week I use the same lever to do something else with. It's important. The kids will notice this, and he's right. Like how many YouTube videos are there now for the current series? Whenever the Doctor does something in an episode where somebody goes down, and you got those people goes, well, the Doctor shouldn't do this, or the Doctor wouldn't do that, or this was a continuity error. We're still doing it today. We notice it, but this time it's not just kids, it's fully grown adults doing it. But the point is I'm trying to make is like, we notice these things, the fans will notice. So I love that part because it made me laugh, because I was like, I've done that. I've many times I've watched Doctor Who and goes, oh, actually that was wrong. I've done it, and it's funny. But at the same stage, it's like when I was younger, I probably would have noticed it as well. Because again, when you're a fan of something, when you like something so much, and when you watch it all the time, especially back in the 60s where there was only 3-4 channels, there wasn't a lot to watch. When you're, especially for children, that is anyway, you would have noticed that. So his dedication to be like, no, I need to learn how the controls work. It's my ship. I should know how it flies. If I'm going to be the Doctor, I should know what each button does. Or if I pull this lever, this happens. Or if I push that button, that happens. I need to know, and I love that. I love that part. And he even shows it when Verity Lambert and Warwick Ross eventually leave. Like he gets the new producer on who has no idea what he's doing. He calls it the screen. He's like, it's not a screen, it's a monitor. And like William Hartnell's like really getting annoyed at this producer, and like he goes, well, okay, so like shouldn't the console thing in the middle be moving? And the guy goes, oh yeah, and like William's like, well, currently the ship's in flight, so that should be on. Again, him being like, look, it's his ship, he knows that he's a Doctor, but also the kids will notice it as well. Why is he flying and the ship's not actually doing anything? And he goes, oh yeah, cool. And he's waiting, and he's like, so, well, where are you? Is somebody going to come do this? And somebody guy comes down, he doesn't know what he's doing, he's flicking buttons, it's not working. And William Hartnell just goes, like, move out the way, and moves him out the way, and then pushes the button, switches the switch straight away underneath the console. And he's like, look, there, sort of thing. And which was like a wonderful bit of detail, because it was like, I don't know if that happened in real life, but also it's just the fact of it goes to show, like, he is the Doctor, it's his ship, he knows how it all runs. But also the heartbreaking part of this story as well is the fact of, and again, this is a true part of Doctor, is that William Hartnell's degrading health, while he was doing, I think it was possibly the third to last season of the show. I can't really remember specifically details, but near to the end, he was getting a lot of things wrong. And if you watch a lot of the older episodes of Doctor Who, of his series, you will notice that he's flummoxing lines. He's saying other lines than what he's meant to say, and stuff like that. I've heard it as well when I listened to the Marco Polo and some of the other last episode audios. When I listened to those a couple of years ago, you could notice little fimbles and little foibles of things that he was meant to say but didn't. And what I love about those ones is that at the end of every sort of episode, there's a moment with a lot of the sort of actors that were around at the time, like William Russell, for example. And he was talking about like, oh yeah, Bill used to do that a lot. There'd be many moments where you take takes, and he would get sort of words wrong, or he would get words mixed around, or sometimes they would be a line, he would say it, and if the line would be, again, I'm making this up a bit off the top of my head, but if the line would be, over there be Daleks, he would say something on the lines of, the Daleks are over there. Like, again, that's not a real line, but you see what I mean. It's like he would just shorthand it so it would be easier for him to say it. And I always found that quite interesting. And they show this in it, like as he's learning the lines, he makes a mistake, and the camera zooms in on the script, and you can see the line, and he says it differently. And if there's a couple of times when they're shooting that he does make those mistakes, that instead of saying the communicator, he says the fornicator or something like that, and everybody's laughing, and there's little moments like this, but you see he's degrading health. And I think the final series of Doctor Who, like one episode, like for example, one that I know for sure of is the Celestial Toymaker. In that story, the Doctor's not in the most of that story because the Doctor has been turned invisible by the Celestial Toymaker, but his voice is still there. And the real reason behind this was because of sort of William Hartnell's degrading health. He was taking holidays, he was taking breaks because he needed it, because he was doing these long sort of recordings, and again, it was all done on tape, so everything he had to remember all the lines, and had to do a lot of long days, long takes, and again, these episodes were recorded and they were out within very, very quickly. So keeping up on it, it was taking a toll on him. It'd take a toll on anybody, but take a toll on somebody who is ill, who's getting worse. It kind of meant meant that he needed a break. So he would go off and you take holidays and take breaks, so that you would see less of him in the episodes, or less moments of him. And that was one of them that I know for sure. Again, because I listened to the audio, and they do explain at the end of like, yeah, he wasn't there because he was on holiday, because he needed a break because he wasn't very well. And it's kind of sad to see, really. I think that's what kind of breaks my heart as well. And he has a David Tennant moment in this. There's a moment when he goes to see Sidney Newman, and Sidney Newman basically says to him, of like, I hate to do this, but we want Doctor Who to carry on, and we want it to succeed. And William Hartnell's, oh, that's brilliant, that's great. He's like, I'm completely dedicated to Doctor Who, but like, there's a lot to remember, there's a lot to do. These scripts are gonna have to reflect me needing a few more breaks and holidays and things like that. And Sidney Newman was like, yeah, no, I completely understand. But we're thinking about getting somebody else. And William Hartnell was like, oh, okay, who was you thinking? And then he shows him a picture of Reece Shearsmith. Well, obviously, it's not Reece Shearsmith. It's meant to be sort of, I had it then. Had it. It completely gone. It was a picture of Patrick Troughton. And William Hartnell looks at it and goes, oh, definitely. That makes complete sense. And then sort of he goes back to his house, and he's standing above a fireplace. And his missus goes, it's okay. No, it's for the best. It'll be all right. And he goes, yeah, you're right. It will be fine. And she goes off, and he just starts crying. He just puts his hands on the fireplace. It's like, I don't want to go. I don't want to go. And he just starts crying. And his wife comes in and gives him a cuddle, gives him a sort of a love. And there's me in tears again. I'm like, I don't want you to go. Don't go, because I'm getting like flashbacks of like David Tennant going. I'm like, oh God, not again. And yeah, it just, oh God, it broke me. It really did. This movie's lovely. It is. If anything you should take from this from me, is that this is lovely. It really is. Everybody in this was perfectly cast. Like, you had so many cameos. Like I said, William Russell is in this. Caroline Ford is in this. You like Sacha Dhawan. Again, he hadn't been the Master at this point, but his portrayal of Waris Hussein, brilliant as well. Brian Cox, his portrayal of Sidney Newman, brilliant. Jessica Raine, Verity Lambert, brilliant. Everybody was cast perfectly. Everybody did the roles perfectly. And when you see the cameos from different people like who have been in Doctor Who, either like been companions or have been sort of villains or background actresses or whatever, are in there as well, and you spot them. Oh my god, that's so and so. Oh my god, that's and it's such. I don't know, cathartic is the right word. It is so lovely to see because like this is one for the fans. This is one for us. And as I was watching it, I was like, I know this is made 2013, but I would really love to see a movie like this done, but for Reece Shearsmith, for his version of Patrick Troughton of the Second Doctor, because you only get a couple seconds to a minute of him as a Second Doctor. He's standing in the wings, and he comes in and he talks to sort of David Bradley, William Hartnell, and he goes like, "I'm absolutely terrified." And William Hartnell basically goes to him like, "Oh no, no, don't worry about it. You'll be completely fine. You'll be all right." And that's basically it, really. And it was very sad. One thing I do want to talk about as well is the ending. So originally I was going to watch this on BBC iPlayer, and that would have had Ncuti Gatwa, but this version that I watched was a DVD copy that I got from a friend of mine, and it was the original. I didn't realize this at the time, so I'm playing it and watching it, and at the very end, William Hartnell, Dave Bradley, is standing at the computer. Everybody's gone, and he looks over, and he sees Matt Smith, and I probably would have had the same reaction, but I think it's because I'm such a big fan of Matt Smith, and because like Matt Smith is such a brilliant Doctor, that when he looked over and he saw Matt Smith again, I was just in tears. I just flooded because it was that idea of Doctor Who's in good hands. Like, yes, you are leaving. Yes, it means the end for you, but you know it means that it's going to carry on. And it's in safe hands, and Matt Smith is taking on. And again, same with Ncuti Gatwa, it's in good hands. It's a shame that he only had 2 years, to be honest. And I think if they're going to update it, then they should do it. They should update it with every new Doctor that comes now. They should update it. So whoever comes next, whether it be Billy Piper or it be somebody else, that next time they re-show this, it should be that actor or actress, to be honest. And I just feel like that would be a lovely thing, not just for the movie, but also for any young fan who was going to get into Doctor Who to watch it to see if, oh, that's my Doctor. You know what I mean? That's my Doctor. Because, like I said, we all have one. Every generation has a Doctor. Every generation has a Bond. You know what I mean? Like it's one of those things that everybody has their Doctor, and that Doctor will always be theirs. You know, and that's what I mean. Like, I just wish there was more like Rhys Smith and Patrick Troughton. If they did another one of these, they did a sequel, I would love to see Patrick Troughton's run because even though William Hartnell's run was brilliant, from what a lot of people have told me, Patrick Troughton's run was where it really sort of took off its sword to the point of where loads and everybody just watched it and loved it and adored it. And yeah, so like that would be a lovely thing to see. And like I said, Rhys Smith, I think he'd do a brilliant job because he's a fantastic actor anyway. But I think he'd do a brilliant job at the Second Doctor and Patrick Troughton. So that'd be really, really fun to see. But yeah, I'm just in awe. I am just in awe. I loved it. I did. As we come to like overall thoughts, I thought it was lovely. I did. I didn't expect going into it that I was going to get emotional. I didn't expect myself to cry. I didn't expect myself to start recording this and to get really emotional. So I do apologize there. But, as I look over to my wall, I see 2 signatures on my wall, 2 photos. One is, as I mentioned, from Paul McGann, who is a lovely man who I would really do want to meet again and get a photo with him. And the other one is a man that I haven't met, but I have a signature from him, which is Tom Baker. I have Tom Baker's signature on my wall. And yeah, I've got 2 of my favourite Doctors on my wall. And I've said it before to my mum. I said, if we ever have a fire, those would be the 2 things I save. Like, out of everything I have in my room, all the collectibles and all the figures I've got, those would be the 2 things I would save because those are just 2 memories that mean the world to me. And hopefully one day I get to meet Tom Baker because he's my favourite classic Doctor. I think he's just wonderful. In my mind, he is the definite article. He is the Doctor, as he would say. Um, and yeah, as I look at their photos and as I come to an end, one other thing that I'm reminded about this show and this film is the fact of how much not just the fans and how many and not just many people, but myself personally, have lived their life in sort of the footsteps of the Doctor. And what I mean by that is the fact of personally for me is that a lot of the things that I do in my life, I don't do them because they're right. I do them because they're kind. You know what I mean? To take a leaf out of Peter, yeah, Peter Capaldi's sort of leaf out of his book. Um, I you know I don't do this because I want to beat somebody or because I want to sort of be the best person. Not because it's right, but because it's kind, and that's the thing. Really, I'm paraphrasing, but yeah, I live my life as the Doctor would. Even the Doctor is who I want to be on my best days, and the Doctor who is who I want to be on my worst days. And that just goes to show the power of this show, of how much it means, not just to me, but to you, to the fans, is the fact of we all have our own Doctor. We all have, like I said, our favorite stories, our favorite episodes, our favorite companions and monsters. But we all watch it because of the Doctor. No matter who it's played by, we'll watch it because of them. And we all try to live our lives like the Doctor. And the Doctor Who community is a wonderful place. It's full of wonderful, caring, accepting people. And that's because that's the way the Doctor is, a very wonderful, caring, accepting person. And to me, that is the sort of the longevity of it, is because of how inspiring the show has been and how much the Doctor and the companions and what they live for and what they stand for means to people is the reason this show has lasted so long. It's because of the Doctor. It's because who they've got to play it. And it wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for Verity Lambert, Warwick Huss, Sidney Newman, and everybody else on the production team. And it wouldn't have happened without William Hartnell as the Doctor. Without Carol Ann Amford as playing Susan, William Russell playing Ian. It just wouldn't have happened without any of them. So this is what I said at the beginning, and I mean it now at the end, is the fact of if you're a Doctor Who fan, and no matter how you feel like Doctor Who's treated you recently, with sort of the current run the last few years or during like the revival, or if you was a fan of the classic era, no matter where you stand as a Doctor Who fan, if you listen to this and you've gotten this far, then there's some part in you, there's some spark inside you that is a Doctor Who fan or has a deep love for this show. And if that is the case, then you should watch this film if you haven't already. And if you have watched it, watch it again. This to me feels like a movie that you should watch at Christmas. And it will probably be one I'll watch again around Christmas time. Because it just feels right. Even though I watched it now at beginning of March, it was just one of these sort of films that was like, no, it feels right to be watched at Christmas. It just feels Christmassy. And I've said this before, I don't know why, but Doctor Who just feels like it works at Christmas. It just does. I don't know. But yeah, so thank you for listening. It's been an absolute pleasure. I have got some trivia for you all before we sort of wrap things up nicely. Where can I find it? So, in some scenes, the original props from the Hartnell era were used. I loved that about the production design, how like they used the original cameras, because if you don't know, Doctor Who was shot in Lime Grove, and I know this from reading the book. That place was terrible, and it's not me saying it. That's what Verity Lambert and Warwick Huss and everybody on the production team, they all said it was terrible. And like, is it Pete Hines who wrote the book? He basically goes into sort of detail because he went through the archives, and he goes and says, Paul Hines, sorry, he goes in and says like everybody hated it because it was too small. And they even mentioned it in the film was like when it got too hot, the sprinklers would come on. Now you can imagine small space, really, really hot lamps, a lot of people in the building. It's going to get warm. So, the sprinklers are going to come on, and they show you that in this, like, they're practicing the first ever sort of episode, first time actually going on the TARDIS, and then straight away the sprinklers come on and flood the stage. So that lime grove was absolutely terrible. But they were able to sort of recreate it, and they managed to make do with what they had at the time. And again, you have to commend them for that. So I loved how they used a lot of the original props of that era, and they still had a lot of them, to be honest, which I think was brilliant. Brian Cox did meet Sidney Newman in the mid-60s when working at the BBC. That's pretty cool. Mark Eden, who plays the controller at BBC Television, had major guest role in the William Hartnell era, playing the title role in Marco Polo. I didn't know that one, but then again, it's lost media, so that's pretty cool. Produced as part of the 50th anniversary celebration of Doctor Who from 1963. The TARDIS console was green because during the age of black and white TV, anything white would be too bright and would wash out the picture. A light colour green was substituted that would then appear white on screen. This is a common thing. So if you ever watch any black and white movies, if you ever got to see the behind the scenes footage, a lot of the times people wearing I think it was like greens, reds, purples, I want to say orange as well. There are certain colours that look really, really good in black and white. So if you want somebody to have a dark suit, I think you'd have a bright colour like purple or orange, and it would make a suit look black. Or was that red? I can't remember. But the point is, if you ever see behind the scenes footage of older movies, you would look at a lot of the costumes, you think that looks terrible. The colours don't match. They look absolutely weird. Why are they wearing such bright, weird sort of colours? And why do the sets look so odd? And it is because of the black and white. It's because certain colours look right and better in black and white. Which again, me being some loves behind the scenes sort of stuff, I think that is just brilliant. William Hartnell was 55 when cast in Doctor Who. David Bradley was 71 when cast as Hartnell. In real life, Patrick Troughton was 12 years younger than Hartnell. In the film, he was played by Reece Shearsmith, who is 27 years younger than Bradley, which is brilliant. Annie Wills, uncredited party guest, was Polly Wright, a companion to both the first and second Doctor, and one of the companions who witnessed the first Doctor's regeneration. An uncredited actress plays Wills during a photo call with Hartnell, as well as during the scene where Hartnell is about to film his regeneration. William Hartnell's era stars William Russell, Caroline Ford, and Annie Wills. They all have cameo roles. Jean Marsh, who appears in two Hartnell-era stories as Joanna in the Crusades, and Sarah Kingdom, the Daleks' Master Plan, also cameo during Verity Lambert's leaving party. Jean Marsh was once married to John Pertwee, known for playing the third Doctor from 1970 to 1974. Marsh also appeared in the McCoy-era story, Battlefield, as Morgane, and has reprised her role as Sarah Kingdom in several Big Finish audios. And I think that's it, to be honest. That's all I got for trivia. I'm just really, really happy right now. I know it sounds a bit sort of odd, a bit weird, a bit manic. I think I'm just coming down on a very sort of emotional spiral, but I just feel good. Like I'm proud that I finally watched it, and I'm also glad because now I've seen this. It's led me to think of I can finally watch the William Hartnell era of Doctor Who. I can finally dive deep into his stories, into his episodes. I've got a book of the first Doctor era that I want to read called, I think it's called 10 Little Aliens. So I've got that to read, and I've got loads of not Big Finish, Target novelizations I can sort of read and get through. And so, yeah, I can't wait to get it started. But I just came to mind now. Also, as I was watching this as well, and it just goes to show how much I don't half-ass things, as I said in the introduction. As I was watching this, I was sitting there thinking, oh, God, why didn't I read William Hartnell's autobiography, because if I read William Hartnell's autobiography, I'd be able to sort of speak better for how he's feeling in certain moments and stuff like that. But I was like, oh no, it doesn't matter now. But even without that, I was still able to connect to William Hartnell, even though I have no real full experience with him as a doctor as of yet. The way that he was portrayed as the way David Bradley was able to portray him on screen, able to show his emotion, to show the degradation of his health, to show of how much the role of the doctor meant to him, um, and how he portrayed the role and carried himself, and how his thoughts and feelings towards the show and character changed as the show went on, and how it affected him when Verity Lambert left, and so on and so forth. It's just powerful. So yeah, I didn't feel like I needed to read his autobiography. I still will. Like I'm still going to try and find one. And if anybody knows what the best, because I know there's a few out there. So if anybody knows the best William Hartnell sort of autobiography out there, please do again let me know in the comment section. But yeah, so that was just a moment where I thought in my mind of like, yeah, you really don't half-ass things, do you, Luke? Like you properly go for it when you have a special interest. But yeah, thank you all for listening. If you enjoyed this and you want to see more Doctor Who stuff from me in the future, then by all means, please do make sure that you follow me on Twitter. Make sure that you follow me on Instagram and TikTok at Howdy Beans Podcast. If you listen to this on YouTube, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, most importantly. If you listen to this on Spotify, don't forget to follow the podcast and leave a 5-star review. And like I said, YouTube and Spotify now have comment sections. So leave a comment down below. Let me know your thoughts. I want to hear if you want to have a conversation. I want to start a dialogue. Have you seen it? Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? And all that jazz. Obviously, keep it nice, keep it civil, as always. But I want to sort of hear off you. I want to hear what your thoughts are. So yeah, let me know in the comment section down below. I've been your host, Luke the Elder Bean. This has been absolute pleasure and joy. And I hope you all enjoyed it as much as I did. And I do apologize for getting emotional at the beginning there. But I feel like that just goes to show of how much not just this movie, but this show and its characters mean to me. And mean to all of us as fans. So yeah. So I've been your host, Luke the Howdy Bean. It's been an absolute honor and pleasure as always. You've been listening to the Howdy Beans podcast, and I'll catch you all in the next one very soon. Bye bye.